I'm Sharon Bill. Welcome to my Music Theory Tuition series where I work with you step by step through the ABRSM Discovering Music Theory grades. I'll work through every single exercise and explain everything you need to know. You can access information about the books I have available to help you on my website. Go to sharonbill.com. For advert-free and longer lessons, you can become a patron at patreon.com/SharonBill. If you can give me a like, that would be super, and please do subscribe to my channel to stay updated. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/SharonBill. Let's continue with the topic of ledger lines as we move on to page 2 of the Grade 2 Discovering Music Theory workbook. And the first exercise we have on this page, exercise 2, just gives us a little bit more revision in naming these notes of the treble and the bass clef when we step on to ledger lines exceeding just one ledger line now. And so we just have to keep kind of counting it out and working it out until it becomes familiar to us. And again, I guess it depends upon which instrument you play. It may be, if you say, for example, play flute, these high ledger lines would be quite memorable to you because you'd use them, whereas the bass clef ledger lines would need a little bit extra work. So just work it out and just step it through, counting the steps between the notes. So here we're in the treble clef, and we can start from a familiar point or we can just drop the octave. Let's try a bit of both. And so we can see that we know that the treble clef is every good boy deserves football. So if that's an F, we count in line, space, line, space, line. F, G, A, B, C. So we know that there's a C. We could also count down an octave so long as you remember to count this given note as 1. 1, 2, 3, counting line, space, and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 takes us here, which is F, A, C, and then we have an octave higher. So if that's a C, counting backwards, C, B, A, line, space, line, and then one up from that is B. Now we use the same principles, but now moving to the bass clef, so we can start by counting an octave perhaps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which takes us here, which is good boys, that's a B. Alternative, we can start, we know that this is a G, G, F, E, D, C, B. Now here we know the space is all cows eat grass, that's an A. And then we know that's a G, one step below A is G, and we know that the lines are good boys deserve football always, or whatever little rhyme makes that memorable to you. So we have bag. Let's move on. We're still in the bass clef. So if this is a G, one below that is an F. Notice always using capital letters. That's the sort of the standard practice. So if that's an F, F, G, A, and we know that the spaces are all cows eat grass, or whatever helps you to remember that. Now we've got a bit more thinking to do. So if that's a G, that's an F, then we have an E, that's a D. Or of course you can count the octave up. Now here we have middle C, then it's D, then it's E. So we have fade. Or alternatively, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All cows eat an octave higher. Still in the bass clef, let's carry on. This is middle C, but if you weren't sure, we know that good boys deserve football A, B, C. Good boys deserve football always, that's an A, counting backwards C, B, A to double check. And then we know one step below that is G, or we could think all cows eat grass, there's G. And if this is middle C, D, E, cage. Now we move into the treble clef, so just keep your eyes peeled, make sure you remember to change clef. So we know that the lines are every good boy deserves football, F, G, A, B. And then the space is spelled face, F-A-C-E. And if that's an E, we could just count from there, E, F, G, A. We know that the top line is F, G, A. And if that's a B, down one is an A. So several double checks there. And then if that's an A, B, C, D, or let's count down the octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is the line. Every good boy deserves an octave higher. And then in this exercise, the last one is in treble clef. So if this is middle C, one below middle C is B. Alternatively, we could think, well, I know that's an E, every good boy. E, D, C, B. If that's a B, then one lower is A. And again, if you find it difficult counting backwards, you could just perhaps sketch out a piano keyboard for yourself. It doesn't have to be a great work of art, it's just a good quick visual reference. So that's an A, C, B, A. Now if that's middle C, one above that is D. Alternatively, we know that's an E, every good boy. So E, one lower than E is D. That's a D, there's middle C, B, A, G, one lower than this A. And then the spaces spell face, F-A-C-E, badge. Let's move on to exercise 3. And now before we do that, I just noticed that there's a bit of a misprint on line 1. I guess that's part of the course with new curriculums. However, notice that the stave of 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, has got missed. It sort of got chopped off at the bottom. So let's just add that final line in, just so we don't get confused. It's there on C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's not on A, B or D. So let's just pop that in. These things happen, I guess. And now we're ready to properly work out these notes, where we have a similar procedure where we need to name the notes, but we do that by choosing an option of whether it's treble or bass clef. Because if this was in the treble clef, this would be every good boy deserves football, F, G, A, B, C. That would be a C, so this would be incorrect. And so it must be bass clef, and we know that this is middle C. If we think good boys deserve football, always A, B, C, D, E. So there we go. That's E. And so if this is E, which is on the second line, the next note above that, in the space above, must be an F in the bass clef also. F sharp, of course. And so we know that's middle C. Good boys deserve football, always A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. So yes, it is. If this was the treble clef, if we count down the octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a D. Every good boy deserves an octave higher. So there we go. Now then, for this to be a G, let's think. We could count the octave up. We could try it that way. There's lots of different ways to approach this. Always count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, counting space line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that takes us to this line, which we know is the treble clef, every good boy. If this was the bass clef, that would be a B, and so we know that's an octave lower. And also, if this is middle C, counting backwards, C, B, A, G, must be treble clef. And then here, this needs to be note D. And so if we drop down the octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That must be every good boy deserves. That's treble. Otherwise, that would be in the bass clef, that would be an F, an octave higher. And we know that that's every good boy deserves football, F, G, A, B, C, D. Just double checking, counting upwards. So you can see the options that we have to work these out. So I do suggest that you now press pause and try this final row on your own, and then we can check it through together. So I'm hoping you've had a go on your own. Let's work through these answers together now. Now for this to be C, it must be the treble clef, because remember, middle C is at the bottom of the treble, the top of the bass. And also we know that the lines are every good boy, E, D, C. And so now moving on to exercise 3F, if that previous exercise E was letter name C in the treble clef, this must also be treble clef, C, B, A. Otherwise, in the bass clef, that would be a C. If we're counting upwards an octave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we can see all cows eat grass, that should be a C, an octave lower. Now then, remembering that middle C, if we just refer to the piano again, is at the bottom of the treble, the top of the bass. So if this is middle C, one above that is D in the bass clef. And we can double check that because we know good boys deserve football. Oh, there's a line missing there as well. Oh, let's pop that in. Another little misprint there. That makes a bit more sense now, doesn't it? There we go. So, good boys deserve football always. A, B, C, D. That confirms that. And then finally, this last one, we need to think, what clef is this to make this B flat? Let's count up the octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so for that to be a B, good boys is bass clef, an octave lower. Of course it's B flat, but we know that it's got to be bass clef. Otherwise, in the treble clef, that would be a G every good. But it needs to be good boys, their bass clef. Let's move on to the challenge. Now we have to write each of these notes to the appropriate clef. We can use any time value. I think we'll use just a semi-breve so that we don't worry about stems, but it must be on ledger lines. So of course we can't choose this G up here. Every good boy deserves football, F, G. That's no good because there's no ledger lines there. We can't use this one. We're going to have to go below middle C. So if that's middle C at the bottom of the treble, C, B, A is the second ledger line. There is the G, and we need it to be sharp. And now it says G sharp here. When it's written in letters, we say it, we write it as we say it, but we need the sharp before the note. So you kind of write a music sharp G because of course you need to know that it's sharpened before you play it. No point playing it and then realising it should be sharpened. So now we need a D and then flatten it in the treble clef. So if that's E, that's D, but there's no ledger line, so that won't do. Then we have this D, every good boy deserves, that won't do. We need to go above even higher. So if that's a D, E, F, every good boy deserves football. F is the line, then G is the space, A is the line, B is the space, C is the line, D is the space, and then we'll put the flat beforehand so the performer knows to flatten it before they play the note. And so in the bass clef now, we need to write a note F using ledger lines. Now if that's note G, good boys deserve football always for the lines, this is F, but of course there's no ledger line there, so that won't do. And then F, good boys deserve football, that's an F, but that won't do because there's still no ledger lines. And then F, G, A, good boys deserve football always, A is the line, then B, middle C is the first ledger line, then it's D is the space, E is the ledger line, and finally we get to F, C, D, E, F. And then finally we need to write note B using ledger lines in the bass clef. So if this is middle C, there's B, but we can't use that one because there's no ledger lines involved. If we drop down an octave, it's this one here, good boys, there's a B, again, not sufficient, no ledger lines. So let's count down. So actually we could work it down, counting down the octave, just as a different way of working things. There are different ways of approaching it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, counting line, space, line, space, line, always counting the given note as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 gives us B, an octave lower. That's G, F, E, D, C, B, just to be extra sure. I hope this is helpful to your studies. Please do like and subscribe to stay updated. If you'd like to support this channel, you can buy me a coffee, and for advert-free lessons, you can become a patron. Do visit my website where you'll find many resources available to help you. Visit sharonbill.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.